Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop for, of course, October 14th, 20. It's our episode. 15 episodes in. Yeah, I mean that's kind of impressive. We've been me and Joe at least have been doing it this long, and hopefully we can have Wyrm here for just as long. Let's work towards that 100 episodes. All right. So anyway, I hope everybody's having a great weekend. So to start, why don't we dive into the topics for topic week? Of course, we're going to be talking about the new unearthed Arcana to start out with. That's going to be a great one because they came out with Fiendish Options. Very interesting set of little, things if you're a tiefling or if you're a DM. Then I do want to talk about Pathfinder Blood of the Coven, because this is an interesting one that I haven't seen as much on witches since they were first introduced very early on in Pathfinder. So a bit of expanded material on them is kind of cool they're kind of harkening back to. Then I do want to talk about a bunch of interesting board games that came out. First off, of course, Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. The D&D Baldur's Gate based board game, of course, has just come out this week, and check it out. It's a Dungeon Dragon of Baldur's Gate. Is that? I want to talk about the Expanse Board Game, based on their TV series, which I've seen some of, but some of not very good at keeping up with. Because if Joe would tell you, I'm not good at keeping up with TV often.
Correct. And I just want to correct you. It's a D&D version of Betrayal, not of Baldur's Gate, because that's already a D&D thing.
Yes. Okay, language. Thank you. And then I finally want to finish out Legend of the Five Rings, the card game, because we were talking about Legend of the Five Rings, playing game the other week, and the week came out with a card game based on it. So it's like,
you mean board game?
Yes.
They call it a card game, but it's a board game. Yes.
I thought it originally was a card game.
Originally was a card game. Now it's
I know. There was originally a card game. Now this is a collectible card game.
Yeah, it's a board.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the board game version of a card game.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Granted, it's a new company putting out stuff for it, since Fantasy Flight hasn't done any of the CCG stuff yet. I don't know if they will, or they're just going to use pretty in this kind of find out. But why dive into, of course, Unearthed Arcana to start out with. This one came out this week, Fiendish Options. Of course, this starts with Tiefling subraces. Why don't we talk about that? So the subraces are effectively linked to the various
Layers of Hell.
Well, Layers of Hell is a good way of playing it, but it's also the lords of those layers. Because it's demon lords, princes, I think is the correct term.
Yes.
So the various devil princes. It's assuming that your tiefling from the ability book is based upon Asmodeus, and these are giving all the other versions various devil princes.
Yes, and this is in addition to the tiefling variants, which was in the Sword Coast Adventure Guide, because tieflings now have the most options as a race.
Yeah. A lot of these are very similar. Is the only thing to say about it. All of them seem to get the 2 charisma, and then it's just another ability score which they get. So I mean, the +1 is varied depending on them, though it looks like it's intelligence, wisdom, constitution, strength, dexterity. So, I mean, that's all of them. Okay, yeah. And then
Some of them you get certain spells.
Yeah.
Or abilities.
Yeah, I think it's all of them have their own little version of stuff you can do.
Yeah, basically it just changes the spells that they get for their Infernal Legacy.
Yeah, which I mean it's not a bad thing to do. It's kind of interesting. It adds flavor. Mm-hmm. Like if you're connected more to Dispater and that kind of realm, which is a lot of jagged peaks, iron, terribleness, cliff sides, etc. I mean, it feels like what they're doing fits that theme a little bit, I guess, and the Lord of it, I should say. Dispater himself. So.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I find a little bit weird, too, is that it's like you actually get rid of the Infernal Legacy to add the Tiefling variants options. So.
Yeah.
Well, then what are they under?
I don't know. It's kind of an unusual thing. It's like a legacy.
I like it, but it's just kind of, there's a little bit of okay, so,
Yeah. You have a legacy of each of these layers of hell, basically, and you call it a day.
I actually...
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say... I was going to move on to the cults, but...
Okay.
Were you going to still say...
Okay, let me finish up then with the races a little bit, or the versions. I find it interesting that they are definitely splitting it into 9 a little bit. This is something that I've seen similar variants in Tieflings under Pathfinder, so I'm wondering if they've taken... But this is different, because Pathfinder it more goes for various different types of fiends. This one, it focuses on the devils and their side of the fiends, and then just focuses on the different layers, which is an interesting variation on the same kind of thing.
Right.
Kind of their own unique take, I'd say. But anyway, so you wanted to move on, and let's talk about, though, the Diabolic Cults, because it's the next thing that they put out with this.
I actually really do like the concept of the cults, because this actually creates a great, like, way to kind of vary up, like, possible, like, devil or even demon cults, because they have some of those as well.
Yeah.
For, like, if you wanted to, just for your games and stuff. And I definitely plan to use these.
Well, it does make it interesting because, I mean, it gives some basic information, a goal of the cult, the typical type of cultist who would follow them, and then I like the signature spell side of it, where it's like, well, if you can cast spells, you can replace any of these spells from this list to make it more signature to this cult. Mm-hmm. Which I do like a lot, actually. I find that very interesting variation.
And here's something which I thought of a use for is Warlock, the pact of the Devil Pact. It might be fun to let players pick one of these and replace the spells given, or like one of the spells given with some of these spells. I actually think that'd be really cool. Like, because if you go Pact of the Fiend.
Yeah.
Where is Pact of the Fiend?
You may.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah, like instead of like burning hands, you can instead have your disguise self or something.
Yes.
And stuff, and switch these out. I thought might be kind of cool to kind of fluff up your character's pact a little bit more.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. That definitely would be an interesting thing to connect with too. And I could even see, to a degree, using these with PCs. I mean, they don't talk about it, but, like, just giving, like, options for maybe you're part of a cult, especially if you're doing some kind of, like, evil game, or, like, maybe if you're an ex-member of a cult or something.
I was going to bring that up, because you could totally have that, like, in the backstory. Like, I was a cult of, Orcus. Part of the cult of Orcus, and now I'm fleeing from them. I've decided to try to turn to the good side, but then it gives you a whole backstory of what that cult was like and everything.
And go ahead.
I would probably require a player to spend a feat on the ability, though.
Well, I mean, the only thing that would be interesting would be like adding in those 4 spells to their possible spell list, which, I mean, maybe a feat would be that, but I would give them something else for it too, I would guess.
Well, no, because you have the second thing, like the vexing escape, as a reaction the creature takes damage, it reduces the target to 0 and teleports 60 feet.
I wasn't even thinking of giving them those abilities, but I guess if you want to allow those abilities, then I would say definitely take a feat to like be able to do those.
They're generally feat worthy in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think they're so powerful to where a feat would be like, no,
Yeah, and then, of course, definitely having it in a storyline of either you're directly a cultist if it's more a game that allows evil, or, reformed cultists are definitely interesting, too, to play. So.
I think about devils as they're lawful evil, so you can actually still kind of go with a party.
That's true. Lawful evil is the easiest to work with, and tends to be amiable. So that would work pretty well. And it's definitely some very interesting abilities that are linked to them regardless. So even if you're talking about an NPC, like granting them these things, definitely gives them a little bit that's makes them a little more unique, and I think that's an important thing. So it's like, you know, it's good that they have like cultist in the back of the monster manual, so you can quickly pull out a cultist. But like giving them, well, I'm a cultist of Zariel, then it's like, oh, well, I've got these special abilities, you know, now that I can quickly extra do that makes me more unique to your other generic cultist over there.
Right, and also it gives them more of a guided purpose than I'm just a random cult member of some cult.
Well, I mean, you as the DM have the role of giving them the random cultist kind of idealism, but yes, I mean, that it does help you out that you can you don't have to make a cult every time if you really need one.
And it also makes it easier. It's like, okay, well, you make a knowledge religion roll. Oh yeah, you have heard about this cult and this is what they're about, instead of like, okay, how rare is this cult? Now it's, you know, you have a standard to go by.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's like making common cults, even though they probably aren't that common. Yeah, I guess that's the easy way of saying it. Yeah, the cults are definitely very interesting, and I can see using them myself too if I have an opportunity. They definitely add something. And the last thing they put out, though, with the Fiendish options, of course, the demonic boons, which is definitely NPC/monster.
Yeah, definitely.
Stuff. Yeah. This is if you want your monsters or NPCs to basically have made a deal with a demon and have a bonus from that demon, which they will totally use against your PCs, this is the one to have it. I mean, consider the, let's just take an example, the Demogorgon one, since Demogorgon's sort of our quintessential lord of all the demons. You get +4 to strength, charisma, or both, it says. So I guess
most of them are both, which I think is interesting.
Well, I feel like you would only take what's appropriate to the character. Like, right. If I would give the bonus of Demogorgon to a sorcerer, I probably wouldn't give them the strength. I'd give them the charisma only. Though if I give it to, like, a paladin of vengeance or something who can be evil, I might give them both. Then you get signature spells, similar to the signature spells of the cult. And then get special ability. And like the Demogorgon one is actually really good. It's the creature has advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. I'm sorry, this makes pretty mean creatures or NPCs, you know, that your players can fight against because they've gotten these bonuses.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked through all of them to see if there's any like really like more deadly ones or sorry, very super deadly ones. But each of them are very interesting. I mean, and the thing is, they do give a very good representation of a lot of the different demon lords in this case, you know, this is talking about all of them just a little bit.
Jublex is very interesting because you get +8 bonus to Constitution with an equal penalty to Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma.
Well,
and Charisma.
And
and Charisma, yeah. And no signature spells.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, you're serving an ooze slime lord, so
yeah.
I mean, you become
resilient but dumb.
But you get liquid movement and slimy organs.
Yeah. Oh God. Man, that's actually pretty good abilities. That's the thing. Is sort of like, if you're not a mental thing, you could serve Jublex, and then you could be like the Jublex Barbarian or something, or the Jublex, like, Bugbear. You know, it's like...
The only thing that pops in my mind right now is back in the day when we used to always joke, hey, you can take a free level of ooze.
No, it was Gelatinous template.
Oh, Gelatinous.
From Bestiary, from Savage Species, it was Gelatinous, which I think gave people Intelligence /. And we joked that you could take it as a PC, because it's like, well, you could totally just be like the group's pet, and I would control your character then, but you could have a free template of Gelatinous. No one took the offer.
No.
Yeah, for good reason.
Although, you make a good point, though, for the Jublex one, that would be a great one for, like, a barbarian. You don't need charisma, intelligence, or wisdom.
Traditionally, no. And, so, like, enemy barbarian coming against you, you know, that could, like, squeeze through the cracks and already resists some damage, you could take the version of Barbarian that isn't the... Well, they already get resistance from Rage, so maybe Barbarian's maybe not the best one, but like a Fighter maybe even then, I'd say. Take a little more advantage of it. But
also, whenever it suffers a critical hit or is reduced to 0 hit points, creatures within 5 feet take acid damage.
yes.
So you have Exploding Fighter.
And I find it interesting that they do then add in the other demon types. Should they have their own cults or stuff too? And they don't give a... Like, they just basically give, like, special abilities. Like, the Balor could have a Fiery Soul, or a Merilith could have the Serpentine Reaction, where a second reaction each round is actually really good too. So...
Yeah.
I just want to be the most devious enemy for Duplex.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
I'll bring that up later.
Yes.
I don't...
Man, they all are very interesting and definitely add a different level to a lot of the creatures you're fighting against. And I think that's what makes them pretty cool to use, I'd say. You know? Like... but without going into too many details about them, because I guess we could go into details about all of them, you know, because all of them have very interesting abilities. I do feel like this is an opportunity for you to, again, add flavor to some of your monsters, and without just having them be like, oh, you've managed to find and you're fighting a whole bunch of goblins. You know, that happens, but maybe they're goblins that made a deal with Yungo. So they, like, are kind of cannibalistic. They're, you know, on the outskirts of goblin society. They're pretty dangerous and mean. And, you know, a little bit more of a threat than your average goblin. And a group of them could maybe be a threat to your slightly higher level PCs and be like, oh no, we have to deal with these things that have, like, a bonus to strength and dexterity. They're dumber, but they're meaner, you know?
Yeah. And that's a way to make a you know, low-level monster more interesting for a higher-level, you know, fight.
Now, granted, it doesn't, like, increase the level by an insane amount, but still...
No. But it gives them it gives it an edge of, oh, we're going to wipe these things, you know, so easily out. And it's like, oh, wait, these guys are more powerful than we thought.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And... yeah. and definitely, like, a small cult group with, like, the cult leader with the Aura of Bloodthirst for the Yengo, and then, like, all the rest of them having Rampage and Gnashing Teeth. Like, a group of, like, 10 goblins can actually become pretty deadly very easily with that. And normally they're, you know, oh, it's a goblin. Granted, they're still a bunch glass cannon, but, you know.
It still makes it more like, I think it's more of a surprise for the characters too, because it's like, oh, you don't think they're going to be that dangerous.
Yeah. So, these are very good options, I think. I like the Fiendish Options. This has been one of its... I guess I can say it's my favorite of the Unearthed Arcanas I've seen in a while, because it does bring a lot of... It brings interesting flavors not only to characters, but for Dungeon Masters too. And I think that's a good thing to do with one of these things, is to give options to everyone. Not that, of course, like a Dungeon Master couldn't take advantage of whatever when it comes to Unearthed Arcana, but a little bit of, you know, uniqueness, you know? I mean, we had, like, last time, the Eladrin and the Gith, which were cool, and before that it was the three-pillar experience, which are very interesting systems, but I feel like this stands out amongst those. Just, I don't know. That's just what I can...
No, I agree. It gives a lot more options. There's a lot to this one. It's not just, oh, here's a couple new things, or here's a couple things you can tweak. There's gives you a decent-sized list of things that you can flavor into the game.
Yeah, and they all fit together pretty well with the entire ideal of fiendishness. So, I definitely am. I'm happy about this one, I have to say. This was a very cool one that they've thrown out here. But anything else you two want to say about this one, or are we going to move on to our next topic?
I'm good.
Okay. I want to
I'm
talk. Okay, I want to talk about Blood of the Coven, the latest Pathfinder Player's Companion. So, the fact is, if you didn't know a bit about Pathfinder, they have a lot more different classes, and in their second book that came out, the Advanced Player's Guide, one of the classes they introduced was a witch. Not to say that they haven't done a lot with witches here and there. You know, when they've added in some class options, occasionally they've, you know, I'd say, like, thrown in a bone that, oh, you know, you can...
Added some hexes, added some spells.
But nothing really in depth, I would say, is the only thing I felt like. You know, it's still, to a degree, like the weird stepchild that they're like, oh, we're going to have something else with hexes, or something else that, you know, it's like similar to you, but it's its own thing, so you don't really like, we're not really looking at you as much, you know, and putting out a book that is, well, all about witches is more interesting, I think. They've definitely expanded upon it. I think the last major one I remember for the options, it was maybe the Advanced Race Guide had a bunch of them for, like, races had their own. I'm sure that something came out somewhere else along the line. Like, again, you know, this book has a bunch of options for a lot of different classes. Here's a witch one kind of thing, you know, that fits along the same theme. But this one, it's all about, you know, the wild magic of the witch, where it can be good or bad. Because this also not only talks about, you know, witches and their class abilities, using, you know, curse magic, new rituals, new rules that you can have towards actual witches, but also adds in things for hags, which are this...
And
like,
changelings.
Yes. Changelings,
Yeah.
the children of hags, like the mortal children of hags, which are all women, I believe, if I can remember the race correctly. Yes.
I believe so.
Who can change into hags, which is a really weird kind of thing, but that's an entirely thing about talking about the changeling race. But focusing on them, which is again another like race that's sort of been out there but not talked about as much. Again, I think Advanced Race Guide did help us with a little bit about it, because that was very good.
Right, but they're adding 10 sub-races of just the changelings.
Which is really cool, which I'm guessing is about, as they say, it depends on the hag mother. Because
Right.
I didn't know there was 10 different types of hags, but I'm pretty sure with how many bestiaries they put out in Pathfinder, they could have 10 different types of hags. I only thought there was like 5 or 6, with my remembering of, you know, basic D&D/Pathfinder, but I stand corrected. So, yeah, new things for hags and classes and stuff, too. Granted, they do have witchcraft-focused things for other classes, too, so you can have a cleric that kind of hooks up to witchcraft a little bit. But the witches is the one that I'm finding it, like, you know, a interesting focus on.
And I almost like, because it says it's like it expands on the like lore of the witches within a D&D setting, which I like the idea of, because there's always that point where it's like, well, witches, it's like they're supposed to be this kind of like, you know, in like normal culture, you know, witches are these like, oh, you know, burn them at a stake, they're evil. But, you know, witches are a player class, so it's like, you know, the reconciliation between that might be kind of nice as well.
Now, the odd thing I'm seeing, though, is I'm only seeing 7 different types of hags. Anise, Green, Mute, Night, Hit, Sea, and Storm. So I don't know how there's 10 sub-races of changelings.
Maybe they're introducing a couple new hags. Remember, they sometimes do
Yeah,
monsters? Or something that's like maybe like an in-between or something like that, too. Like, you know, mixed ancestry. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Or created in some different way, or...
Yeah. They're good. Those would be interesting options, though, because, again, like, a lot of races have developed racial options, and I'm not sure how much the changeling has at actual racial options when it comes to, well, the race itself. It's one of those things that I always did actually like a lot about Pathfinder, is that you could have these, like, very different races just because of, well, options. You know, it's like I could switch one of my normal racial abilities with this other one because I'm this type of changeling, which is definitely cool. And, I mean, they did come out with some of these. The problem is the only racial options they came out with, they did have some. And it was from one of the Pathfinder, it was just a Pathfinder player's companion. They came out with a couple of them. So there are a few racial options. Not so few of them that I would say, like, they've completely abandoned them. But in comparison to some of the other ones, just not a lot. So expanding on that definitely would be a good thing, too. And I like the idea of expanding upon, like, because witches are this weird place because they get their powers from another unworldly source, which they channel through their familiar, which is also their spellbook. So they're very, like, weird in comparison, because it's like, you have to have a familiar. Your familiar is your spellbook. And you also, like, converse with a otherworldly being. So they're, like, similar in a way to, like, the Dungeons & Dragons Warlock, how it's connecting to, like, an otherworldly being. But it's less script.
You have a animal that's also kind of like a spirit animal.
Yes. It's a weird combination, but it always added for an interesting flair, I think, to it. So I like...
Not to be confused with the spirit animal of the shaman.
Oh my god, yes. Well, one of the spirit animals is physical, the other is actually a spirit. So that's the difference.
Taking animal form, yeah, that's true.
God. Yes, I know. It's like... Unfortunately, there's been so much stuff in Pathfinder. Sometimes they get a little muddled, and I can understand that. That can happen, especially with gaming systems that have had a lot of opportunity to put stuff out.
So just blow up the witch's familiar and your gold.
Actually, yes. That is the way to do it, is to blow up the familiar and your gold.
There we go.
I mean, you could definitely do that to a wizard spellbook, too, if they got it somewhere on their personage, but, I mean... I don't know which is easier. Like, sundering the spellbook or just murdering the animal. Which will have improved evasion. So, it is technically, quotations, hard to kill.
Well, honestly, it's easier to just sunder the wizard because they have such low hit points.
This is accurate. Accurate.
I sundered you, sir.
Well, it's the age-old, like... that works in a lot of RPGs. It's that low level versus high level. Low level, your fighter versus wizard. The fighter's probably got a big advantage of being able to survive one of the wizard's spells and then just murder it. High advantage is probably the wizard because the wizard has like nigh infinite power with like 9th level spells, and the fighter's like, I can hit you with the sword twice.
But does the wizard have a itty bitty living space?
I mean. Could. Depends on the wizard. There probably is a spell for that.
And is the wizard played by Robin Williams?
It could be. I mean, we could do that. And you could get 3 wishes, too.
Sweet.
No. Anyway, enough Aladdin references. But, no. I mean... Getting back to the Blood of the Coven, I do like it. It is unfortunately going to be one of their smaller books, so they're not going to like throw huge amounts of information on you. This is going to be this kind of thing. But as I said, any information bringing us into this side of Pathfinder, which they have sort of pushed to the side themselves, is kind of cool. That they're at least thinking about the things that they've forgotten to a degree and bringing them back to the forefront. And, more curses the better, too. Because, like, that's one of those weird things. It's like, cursed items, they got their own thing set for it, and, like, you've got the bestow cursed spells, and they're always like, well, you could do this, or come up with your own. And I'm like, I don't want to come up with my own. I want some suggestions so I could come up with something, a variation of that, and I could not have to, like, brainstorm a game balancing curse at this level,
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't we, of course, move on to our next topics, unless anybody else wants to say anything about witches and witchcraft. Cool. Betrayal at Baldur's Gate came out this week, which I've been very happy about, to at least have out. I love Betrayal at House on the Hill. People can attest probably here that it is one of my favorite board games. I love to play it on each chance I have. And
Yes.
this is an interesting version of it because it combines my love of that game and my love of D&D. What more do I want? So, it's effectively, you're in Baldur's Gate, which is a city in Dungeons and Dragons. It's Faerun, Forgotten Realms setting. And you are basically taking the role of heroes, and you're exploring the city's alleys, catacombs, and buildings, facing some kind of horrible terror there. And this sounds actually a lot like a classic Dungeons and Dragons adventure. Because you have to think about it. You're exploring for a while, then something happens and you learn of a danger that's there, and now there is a little bit of variation, as it turns out that one of the PCs is really an evil, version of whatever, member of whatever's going on here, i.e. Betrayal House on the Hill traitor kind of version. But very easily I could have a D&D game where I could have like a couple of NPCs be connected with the PCs, and then one of them turns into a traitor. And it would have the similar kind of effects that, like, the two people you're hanging with, you go through a bunch of adventures with, that you befriend, one of them turns out to be evil and, turns against you for the greater darkness that they're working for.
Yes. It looks really great. I'm looking over the haunts right now.
Oh.
And they're named great. The first one is awesome. Do beholders dream of electric eye rays?
Oh my! Oh, that's a winner.
Yeah,
Instantly.
I read that one right off the bat. I'm like, okay, that is awesome. I think that's actually the best name one, honestly.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. I was looking at some of the tiles, and one of them is called the Beloved Ranger's Statue. Once per game, if you end your turn here, gain 1 speed. But in the room itself is written, Minsk and Boo were here.
Oh God.
I'm like, that's amazing.
I would not have remembered Minx, but I remember Boo.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that's a great reference.
those are some. That's the thing. It's like it's filled with a lot of little like I think information like that, which is really great. And I mean,
There's only one downside with the game. They brought back the sliders. That never freaking work.
Like, yes.
What did they change them to? I always thought they were just sliders.
Well, like if you played Tabletop Simulator doing it with us, where they're the little like
Yeah.
circles you can move up and forth. In the actual like physical game, they're these little like clip-ons.
No, I've played the physical game. I actually haven't played the tabletop sim.
Oh, I thought you. Oh, we did. Lord's Waterdeep. Okay, so yeah, the sliders I think can and cannot work. Like some of them for me were very loose, and I could never get them to quite like work properly.
They're either way too loose or way too tight.
Yeah, no, I do remember that though.
Yeah.
They weren't very.
You got to be careful with them.
I honestly rather would just have a like little like pebble or something to move up the
Usually
track.
what me and my friends did was just set them on top.
Yeah. Because they don't work really well as a slider.
No, and like it's like if they're on top, you can move each of them individually. If they're in there, you have to worry about like
Drifting all around, yeah.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate thing that it works, yes and no is the only thing about it that I'd have to say. Because again, you can of course slide them still, and sometimes it works very well. And it's an interesting concept because it is attached to that, so if you should accidentally knock it, normally it's okay. Even if it's like a little floaty, it still stays relatively connected. But then again, if they're all floaty, then it doesn't work as well because, yes, you're going to knock it, and then it's going to be like, well, I wanted to go this way. You didn't want me to go this way? Too bad. Now,
The standees are really nice.
I'm interested to know if the characters are characters from things in Baldur's Gate. Let me see here, because I can see the name of one of them. They might just be ones that they came up with themselves. But, you know, I was just curious if they were actually...
Like the hottest, the Scarlet?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like I just did a quick Google search of Jihadis from and it like it came up with the board game but nothing else.
That's fine. I mean,
Oh, there's also a guy on Facebook.
but yeah, the miniatures are really nice because they're also like
Fully painted.
well, I mean, they are technically for Betrayal too, but I guess like these, you know, look really nice and very heroic too. That's one of those things.
Yeah.
That...
I'm not saying the ones for the original Betrayal weren't good. I'm just saying it's nice that they kept with a fully painted figure too.
That's true, and it does stand out very nicely.
I also kind of like how there, if you notice, that basically the different ones are different races.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like you got the human, the drow, the dwarf, the gnome.
Orc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure what it's going to be is like, because they do say it's the same flip card, so it's like you can have two different drows, and hopefully, you know, that's one of those things. Is like the original Betrayal is like I don't feel like the stats were so far apart a lot of times, so it was like, oh, am I going to play like you know, Professor A, Professor B, like, you know, one of them, of course, was knowledge, the other was, I think the Professor's one of the better ones, and some of them are pretty good, but other ones, they're like generic A or generic B, which are very different, you know. If they all had a little bit of that, you know, variety, I think it would be better. You know, like, for, like, I can name two of the characters that did it very well, and then, like, I think, like, the other, like, the two older women were pretty similar when you flipped them over. But, like, the, you know, Professor and the Jock, which was either the speed jock or the big dumb guy jock, or the strength jock, were interesting. Or the Professor was, you know, knowledge or sanity. Maybe having a little bit more variety in amongst their stats, that rather than, like, two switch off, or like, two different stats switch off, maybe, like, one has a combination of two of them that are, like, high and two that are low, and then switch that kind of thing. Because that might be an interesting way to get a lot of different combinations. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll have to look it over and see it ourselves.
And I'm kind of sad, but I would have loved it if they did, like, if they actually switched the names from, like, knowledge to intelligence and might to strength. That would have been awesome. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
They missed an opportunity on that.
They did. They could have been, like, you know, like, dexterity, strength, you know,
like sanity, wisdom, you know.
Yeah. Even if they, like, connected them, like, strength, like, dexterity, like, did 2 words for each, like, might, strength. That might have been really cool. But, I mean, I understand they did want to keep it
of
pretty
course.
The same. And it does.
But it still would have been interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It still would have been interesting. And at least, you know, once again, they have a lot of information about the characters on them, which was always one of those interesting things that, like, I think, like, the books, like, the little book also had, like, information on each of the characters that made it very interesting, and the relationships they had with each other, which is one of the things I never play with, but I always found was very interesting to read up on in the book, to be like, oh, you know, like, this one of the characters is friends with this one, or doesn't like this other character, and I would love to, like, bring that into the actual board game one of the times, you know, be like, you know.
It might make sense why the little kid is there. I'm a small child just wandering through Murder House.
Well, I think, like...
yeah, no. I love, because me and my friends always come up with a backstory about why the group's together, and it's hilarious. Like, the priest, you know, like, just decided to, you know, he's like, saw this little girl and decided to bring her along, and it's just like, that's super creepy.
Well, it's
Well, at
like,
least you didn't see the little boy and decided to bring him
oh
along.
god.
That probably was a backstory one time.
But no, it's like, I think like the one little boy mows the professor's lawn, so it's like you could have the two of them together. It's like,
Yeah, right.
it's like,
Hey,
it's
you
like,
mow my lawn. Come to Murder House with me.
yeah, it's like, come investigate this mysterious house with me. I could use an assistant. You'll get an extra $5. And the kid's like, oh boy, $5. Well, that actually sounds like something that might happen. It's like, they don't know it's a murder house, and they're like, I'm gonna go investigate this mystery, and I need another assistant.
Where's the parents?
The parents are like, oh, it's just an abandoned house up inside of town. He's got some adults with him. There's probably not enough murder going on there for him to be worried.
Of course, any time where you have the old man and the young kid dynamic, even with Back to the Future,
Oh, yeah.
it's like, why does his parents allow him to hang out with the crazy old man? Shouldn't they be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't hang out with the dangerous man who's like has plutonium from a third world country?
It's his crazy uncle that the parents just wanted the kid to spend time with.
Yeah. It's like, just go spend time with him. It's all right, you know. He'll
Someone has to do it, and it's not gonna be us.
Yes. You know, we'll probably be fine. We won't worry too much about what's going on. So just don't worry. He's probably not murdery. Probably.
Or not going to drag
Until he
you into
is.
dangerous situations.
I'm sure that those Libyans are fine. Nice guys, you know, not too dangerous. But
Those machine guns shoot happy gas.
or happy little like love bullets.
I think that sounds even creepier.
I mean, it did.
I have a love bullet for you.
It sounded creepier when I said it, and I knew it did. Anyway, so yeah, Betrayal Baldur's Gate's out now. It's apparently got a lot of different interesting in-jokes in it, like the Minx and Boo was here, spread throughout it, which is something that I also love, that, you know, you can get into this game because it's a cool, interesting game, combining, you know, an interesting setting in Dungeons & Dragons, and Betrayal House on the Hill if you loved it. And also, if you would know a lot about Baldur's Gate, then you'll catch a lot of interesting jokes and in-jokes that are built into it. And, you know, it has very good flavor into it. While still, I think, it feels like it is maintaining some of the flavor of the original Betrayer, while adding in that different level, you know, and doing it successfully. But
Yeah, it's a good crossover.
I guess we're gonna have to try to play it one of these times. I think I might have to get it. I might have to try to find it before PAX Unplugged or something, you know.
I know, right? It's like, I want
Yeah.
this now too. If only I had money.
I've only had an extra $50, but I went and got emotes and stuff from Holly, so.
Well, who knows? Maybe when we go to PAX Unplugged, we'll get a deal on it or something.
True, you never know. Alright, though, why don't we move on and talk about the next board game I want to discuss? The Expanse, the board game. Which, I mean, first off, this is a board game based upon, of course, a television series, a sci-fi series that has some good popularity to it. And I have, again, as I said earlier, seen some of it, not all of it. I'm pretty bad at keeping up with a lot of series, so, you know, that's just me. And there has been a big insurgence of board games based on TV series and movies, of course. More lately, as board games become popular, it is something to do. This one, from what I've seen, seems like an interesting one that does... the thing is, like, I don't know enough to say it truly captures the show. But it's interesting that they are doing a pretty interesting board game based upon it. So it does draw me in enough. It is up to, of course, 4 players, 2 players to 4 players. You take the role of either Earth, Mars, some rebels, or a mysterious corporation. So...
There always has to be a mysterious corporation.
Always. The corporate interests are very important, and you're trying to gain control of the solar system, basically. Using characters and events from the show, basically gaining influence, making fleets, making it that you effectively control the solar system, in a way. And that seems cool.
I'm guessing Protogen is the mysterious corporation.
Yes, Protogen is the mysterious corporation. Yep. And the board looks kind of interesting too. That they've got the like the way that the solar system's sort of arranged, kind of thing. That you have the inner planets, outer
belt.
planets, and the belt. Yes, and where you can influence things there. So, I mean, I'm guessing if you are a fan of the series, you're going to have like a real big fan. Again, probably not as much as most people for myself. You're gonna like be able to dive into this a lot more because it's going to, of course, hit you with the, oh cool, there's this and this from the series. But my question is, it looks interesting enough to try on its own. So I'm just wondering how much it does hold up on its own. That's a good question that I think most of these type of games has a problem with. A good example comparing this would be Joe and I got a like cheap Lord of the Rings game. Like someone gave it to me as a gift, and I passed it off as like, oh, this is gonna be just like just some kind of cheap knockoff. And it was like simple. It was pretty like low price. It was just a basic card game. We played it, and it was fun. And that's
yeah,
one of
it was
those
actually a
things
really good game.
it was, something that we would pass off because it's just like, it was like $20, Hobbit game that just didn't seem all that interesting just by like, oh, it's a cash off. But
Yeah, if we would have saw it in the store, we probably wouldn't have picked it up.
That was the thing about it. But it was a fun game when we played it. It's like, oh, wow. And I think that's one of those problems with the licensed board games is, unfortunately, unless you play it, it's very hard to judge if it's actually good.
Right.
This one at least looks like it has a level to it, that may prove decent. So that's, I think, one of the things it's got going for it.
Yeah, I think it looks interesting. I know absolutely nothing about the show. Yes. So, I mean, just by the look of it, I'd probably at least take a second glance at it at a game store.
Mm-hmm. And I mean...
not even knowing that, it's based off anything.
True.
Yeah, I've never heard of this show, I'll be completely honest.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things is I know it's relatively popular. And again, I saw... is it third season they moved into? I saw parts of the first season. I don't know if they did a second season or not. Because, again, I got behind on a bunch of stuff at that point in time and never got back to it, which was the only unfortunate thing. And for me, I saw it was an interesting show, but not interesting enough that I was going to devote an extra time to it. That's the only thing I can say about it.
It's a Syfy show.
Yeah, it's a Syfy show.
And for the viewers, we refuse to call it Syfy anymore because SYFY is not how you spell sci-fi.
It
That's
really
how
isn't.
you spell Syfy.
Syfy! And, I mean, they do decent shows. I mean, none of their shows lately have jumped out at me as good as some of their past ones. I do have to say that personally. But they're still decent shows from what I've seen.
Yeah, their shows have always been decent. Their movies have always been...
terrible.
Low budget.
That's a good way of saying it. But a political intrigue game where you're like using politics, conquest, and of course actual intrigue are very interesting games. Where maybe...
Would you say they're intriguing?
Yes, intriguing. Where maybe you're like making deals inside and out of game almost to a degree with their players, and those are fun things to do. I'm interesting about how much that actually brings in, or is all of it based upon your cards? Unfortunately, again, deferring to the information I've been able to find. Oh, I can download the rules. I keep forgetting that people put up rule books nowadays. Making it easier to look up these things.
Who needs rule books?
So it is a resource-based game. You have to collect a number of resources to get different things. There are, of course, different sectors. There's maps pretty expansive. Place tells you how to set up your characters and your forces. 2 players have their own setup, which is an interesting thing, too. Which you play events, kick cards from the track, different things like that. It's basic gameplay of a semi-resource gatherer building stuff kind of game. I guess it is just more, resource gathering with intrigue, politics, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, a lot of things are just resource gathering too.
And it's right in normal price. It's $50.
Mm-hmm. So, it's a game that looks interesting, and if you're a big fan of the show, I would recommend checking it out. It has enough interesting look to it, and seems well developed enough that I recommend checking it out. So that's what I can say about it, And so, all right, though. So that was The Expanse. Why don't we move on to talk about something we've already talked about, but we're going to talk about in a different version? Legend of the Five Rings, the card game. Okay. Now, you may say, all right, Legend of Five Rings. We talked about the open beta previously in a previous week for the role-playing game. And we mentioned then that there was a card game based on Legend of the Five Rings. That is a CCG, a collectible card game, which is a classic, which they don't seem to have any kind of material for it being produced currently. Instead, Fantasy Flight, who purchased the world, effectively, the property of it, has put out a board game card game. It's for 2 players. Okay, so that's an important thing that we have to kind of mention about it. It's supposed to be a 2-player card game. All right.
Okay, that's kind of like the... Oh, what the heck is the one I got? Never mind. I can't think of the name of the game. We played it several times.
There are some games where it's better built for 2 players. And the thing is, they might come out with something that would be, of course, more than 2 players eventually, like an expansion that will have variations of the rules to allow multiple players, because usually most of these games do that sort of thing. Not all of them, but usually someone will come out with that at some point in time. And it is basically drawing upon the information that was provided from the Legend of the Five Rings collectible card game, but sort of reimagined as this, where it's the great clans, tenets of Bushido, you're fulfilling your duty to the daimyo, to the emperor, shaping the world. It's traditional Legend of Five Rings, very samurai-esque setting. And you take the role of one of the great clans, and you're conflicting against another great clan. Simple as that. That's the basic of it. And you find allies, battle with each other, until one of your sides is effectively reduced to... you basically... what's the proper way to say it? You dominate it and make it that your clan is basically the surviving clan, in a way. Excuse me.
You wipe out your enemy.
Yes. You wipe out your enemy. Raise their province to the ground. Make your realm the best. Now, again, the art style looks kind of cool, because it feels a little bit like good art style, but has those hints of like ancient Japanese, Chinese art to it, kind of thing, in different places, which is very cool. It does keep with a little flavor of the setting, which is good. And 2-player games can be definitely really fun, and I'm curious as to how many clans they actually have as an option to begin with, and if it makes a difference which clan you're taking part of.
Well, they have several expansions already.
Well, they're planning on. I don't think they're out yet, but yes, they're already like.
Some of them are out.
Oh God, really?
This game. It seems like this game came out back in August.
Which still isn't that long ago.
It may have, but
because there were posts on Fantasy Flight's website from like August.
Yeah, but like October 5th is when they said like it's available now. They might have put out a lot of information on it and started the pre-releases back in August too, because Fantasy Flight likes to like talk about their stuff way in advance, which isn't a bad thing.
That's true.
But it's also like can be confusing too. Okay, it looks like there's 7 clans. And it does look like they each have their own way of doing things. So it's sort of like when the Netrunner game that, Joe, you have...
That's the one I was trying to think of.
where there was 3 corporations and 3 runners. This has these 7 clans,
And then they came out with expansions for more runners, more corporations. It's a build your deck kind of thing, and that one never did expand to more players, though.
Yeah. And it looks like each clan, definitely, as I said, has their own focus, and there does seem to be balances between, like the Dragon Clan balances military and political skill. So there must be reasons to have both military and politics. Maybe you want to directly confront your enemy straight up military. Maybe you want to use politics to overwhelm them and crush them, kind of thing, make deals. So that's an actually interesting aspect of it that I kind of like, that you don't have to focus on direct combat, too.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
so
the expansion packs you can pre-order, that's what they are.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's 6 expansion packs that are all in pre-order right now. They're all $14.95.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, one of the groups is apparently artisans and poets and uses strictly politics to try to dominate. So, I mean, that's one of those interesting things, is, like, each one of them has their own flavor and own abilities that do make them unique enough, it looks like. And that's a good thing.
I am going to beat you through painting.
You might. That's probably what you do, is you make deals with, like, other groups to be like, oh, like, our 2 clans are completing. I get, like, outside influence through my paintings for trading deals and things like that through, through politics, and crush you.
So you're going to paint the other clan out of the picture?
I had to give you the clap. That was...
I'm good at the bad puns.
You are. You are.
So is Tantus.
Oh my god, I can be so bad at them. But there are often times that they don't land very well, though. So what can I say? It's like that one at least had a little meat to its bones. But so you can get it now, and I guess this is an interesting way of playing the game that's different. Because the thing is, like, I guess if you're a fan of the CCG, you might be a fan of this, but it's an interesting direction to take the franchise, I'm going to say. Like, we had the CCG, we've seen that there is a legacy of the role-playing game, that the role-playing game has existed before, which is something that, always hints together. It's kind of like how Wizards always had the redheaded stepchild of having both Magic and Dungeons and Dragons, and kept them apart because of various reasons, while, like, it seems like the original company that had Legend of the Five Rings embraced having both of them because they were basically the same thing. That would be like Wizards actually putting out a Magic the Gathering role-playing game kind of thing. Which, not that they couldn't, or
basically how Blizzard just blends all their stuff together.
Yeah.
Or D&D characters being featured in Magic cards.
Or even coming out with their own card game, which they did for one time, but I mean that died. Sorry, Spellfire. I love you as an interesting game that's very different, but you died.
Yes.
You died because Wizards bought Dungeons and Dragons. But no. Switching gears from a collectible card game to an actual just straight card game is interesting. I'm wondering if they even are planning on continuing the collectible card game. I don't know the popularity that it had at this point in time. It's one of the ones I haven't looked into yet in my research on card games. So, I'm guessing... Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, no, I'll let you finish.
I'm guessing it has fallen down to a degree from popularity. I mean, a lot of card games did. Very few of them have survived the test of time, like Magic.
Yeah, because honestly, what I find, in my opinion, the reason I've kind of fallen away from, like, I liked them as a kid, but I don't really do anything with collectible card games very much anymore. And the reason for that is you have to go through so many packs to get the card you want. And
true.
Honestly, it's kind of nice that maybe what the route they're going is just buy the packs you want. here's the game, buy the packs you want. That might be what they're going for.
Well, also it keeps everyone on a balanced playing field because it's like, oh, I bought the main game, I have these expansions, these are what we have to choose from. It's not, oh, I have so much extra spending money, I can go out and buy the individual cards that I specifically want and can trounce you because I have more money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's like I call it's the pseudo collectible card game. It's technically collectible, but you're collecting like almost entire sets at a time rather than individual cards. Which I think is an interesting version of the collectible card game because it does seem like, yes, you have certain big CCGs that exist out there, but very few can break into the market nowadays. And I think that's one of those things is, what do you have? You have your Magic. Pokemon has somehow retained popularity. I guess there's plenty of people that still play it. Same with Yu-Gi-Oh! And Card Fight Vanguard. There's another one that I know about, but I can't remember its name off the top of my head.
But Vampire's starting to make a comeback.
Nah.
Isn't it a little bit?
Nah.
No.
They put out a special anthology pack that was really part of one of the big tournaments in Europe, and then they sold it to whatever they had left. And it did have some new cards in it, but I mean, they do have it that some people produce online sets that are print and play, which is just that people that are part of the company have passion for it still and will put together some things occasionally. That's it.
Gotcha.
They don't have they don't produce physical cards except for these last set of them.
I didn't know if that was maybe a spark of it trying to come back or not.
I would hope, but we haven't heard enough yet to know that it's a spark of return.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
I was gonna say, it's like similar to like the Star Trek customizable card game. There is literally a group called the Continuing Committee, which continues to support it, and occasionally comes out with their own like cards and stuff that are print and play. But they certainly don't have the backing of the actual publishing company. The publishing company has basically said like, actually no, I think it was the president of the company said, they're doing some great work. We're unofficially supporting them,
Right. We're not going to stop you.
That's basically what it is. We're not going to stop you, but we're not going to say anything else either. I guess if they started making money on it, then they might stop them or something. But, it's now just people that love the game still doing stuff on them.
Yeah, and it makes me kind of think, like, because if you think about it, the card games, the collectible card games that can gain popularity nowadays are basically digital collectible card games. Like Hearthstone and
is it like Gant
Scrolls?
The one that I don't know how popular it is. The one that's based on the Witcher franchise. I thought people liked a bunch.
I don't know what that one is.
It's like the game that was in Witcher. You can now get it like on its own or something.
I bet that is a thing. I would not be surprised.
I remember hearing about it coming out, and I think it's another digital one, but I can't remember what it's called or something off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think it has just something to do with the whole spending money to get card packs, whereas in these, it's like you can spend money if you want to, you can earn them through playing the game, Well,
I think it's that, and also everyone lives so far apart from each other anymore that it's easier to play online than it is to get a bunch of people in the same room to play.
Gwent. Yeah, that makes sense too.
Gwent is the name.
Although I think that's a little bit of a, like, because it's a little bit harder for, like, as you get older to play with your friends and stuff, but when you're young, you have friends nearby always, so...
Oh, yeah. But I think that's part of it is, though, a lot of the collectible card game market, grew up with these games, so now going digital for some of them makes sense because they want to keep those people still playing.
It's another reason that Magic Online does have some popularity, and Magic is now coming out with Arena, a new type of like online gaming. So they're phasing out their old online game, sort of, at least not supporting it as much, and coming up with a new one now because I guess there is a market for it. And I mean, that's both interesting and I still like the physical market, and I feel like there is a place for certain games. Like, I feel like Magic,
I agree,
will always have that physical market. It has enough. It dropped in popularity for a period of time, had a resurgence, and has kept its level up pretty well since then.
I think the problem with Magic Online, at least how I felt, was there needed to be a better way to import and export cards, because there is a physical version and an online version. If I go out and buy a pack, I should be able to maybe scan a certain code on it and get those cards in my online version.
That would be awesome. Then you don't have to buy
that
it
would have
twice.
been a way to... Right. And I think that would have spurned the online a lot more, because then you have the interchangeable thing like that. Or if you bought an online pack, you could get it sent to you in the mail for, a small extra fee or something.
Those have been really cool to do, and I mean, I guess they were blinded by both two things. A blasé kind of lazy attitude, because it's easier not to do that, and two, a little bit of greed.
Yeah, but I think that would have made it even explode more for both things.
Probably for popularity. And they did do some online-only packs in online. Now, granted, these were like... They brought back Tempest and remastered it,
And they had a system that if you collected online an entire... set, you could get a real set of it.
I think they got rid of that eventually, unfortunately.
I'm just saying they had that. I mean, that's as close as they ever got to...
Yeah, but, even so, yes, they weren't going to redo Tempest in physical card form. So that was one of the ways that they could, by remastering older sets from before Magic Online, bringing them back, that they could earn some extra money, too. I'm not going to get physical copies of this, but maybe I want to play with some cards from Tempest and build, a legacy deck, or this kind of deck, that I want to play with these. I might be willing then to spend online for these cards here that I know I'm not going to get physical copies of. But no, for the latest sets and stuff, I think it would have been better. I agree, too. So. And they might have done more stuff than just Tempest remastered. I don't know.
But,
okay. Yes, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, when it comes to collectible card games, it kind of reminds me of something I was told about college football.
Mm.
If you have it, never get rid of it. If you don't have it, never start it. because it's just so expensive to get going, but if it gets going, it's so lucrative in terms of money, in terms of income for a school.
Yeah, God. I know it definitely is hard to break into some of the markets. Even though selling Magic cards can be difficult to do, I think we've seen that you have to do it right. This one game store that we used to go to that eventually shrunk. It still exists, but it moved two stores now.
It's in its third third store,
incarnation. It kept shrinking in the building it was in. Same area, but would go to rent smaller and smaller places and cut things out of their inventory and things that they could do. And unfortunately, it's because that's just going into they didn't choose the right things for being a game store, but they tried to dabble into Magic and did it very poorly.
Right. Well, and it's also that the owner only really knew comics and tried to add games, and he didn't know what he was doing at all. And
didn't really rely... He sort of had someone on his payroll that helped with Magic, but did not seemingly rely on him as much as he should have.
No, and then eventually just got rid of him, and then that just ended him selling. But plus, he had a deal with a nearby store that sold Magic cards, and the original deal was, look, we have a big base who buy from us. As long as you don't sell individual cards, we'll be friendly about it. As soon as you decide to sell individual cards, we'll completely wipe you out of the market.
And that was one of those things about it, is unfortunately the individual card market is the best market a little bit.
It is.
Yeah. And tried to delve into it, and I think that's what happened, is that other store was like, okay, you broke the deal. We're going to just, sell you.
Yeah, the other store was basically the size of the store they are now, and it did everything that they wanted to do perfectly fine. So,
yeah.
I don't know. But that's a little... But even when you talk about the individual, for myself, I collect Magic cards. It's one of those things I love to do. I have decks too, but I like having them as part of the collection. I know there's portions of the cards I will probably never have in my collection unless I become rich. I do. And I've accepted this fact. I basically kind of say to myself, I will never buy an individual card more than $20. Period. And the only time I will buy an individual card that is $20 is if I can also put it in a deck. And I feel like it's very critical to that deck. That's it. Normally my budget's like $5 for a card, individual or not. Now granted, I'm not going to have those super powerful, ridiculous decks that some people spend $1 billion for, but I'm never looking for competitive Magic too. If you avoid competitive Magic, you'll avoid a lot of those people for the spend to wins. You know, you can also, or go to like small tournaments at like local shops. They oftentimes don't have that kind of problem too. You know, it's the big money places that you find that unfortunate effect. Well, nowadays with Magic at least. So, I mean, you were right that it's a little spend money to win or spend money to make money. Almost, it really is for big ticket Magic.
I do have to bring up one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Since we were talking about stores and Magic, and that's the one store that we used to have when we went to high school that got shut down twice for selling illegal copies of, what was it, Pokemon cards.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was
counterfeit Pokemon cards,
making counterfeit Pokemon cards and selling them. But I think the first.
Oh, Joe, you froze.
Did I?
You're good now.
You're good now.
Okay, that was weird. But the first time they closed was because of they weren't charging sales tax, so they were closed because of tax evasion, basically. Then someone bought the store and then started making counterfeit Pokemon cards, which then went under again.
I do remember buying Magic cards from that place, but I would buy. The thing is, it was really sucky because I would buy lots of Forgotten or Fallen Empires, which is one of the lamest, cheapest sets that there could ever be now in days. You could literally spend like $40 and buy every card from that set.
Oh yeah, but I remember like, back in the day when they were still open, they had stuff all the way from Alpha. They had like unopened boxes of Alpha.
I think they only went to Beta. I don't remember Alpha. They might have had an Alpha.
I think they had like one Alpha and a couple Betas, and but they had a lot of older boxes. I mean, they were extraordinarily priced.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember the Unlimited and the Arabian Nights come to mind, because the Arabian Nights, I looked at it and it was at a price where I could be like, I could maybe someday save up for that kind of thing. It was only like It was only like $200 or something, or like $300. You know, it was insane for someone of my age at that time, but still not so insane that I couldn't dream about that one. It wasn't like 500 or something, but
yeah.
Moving back to a little bit of the original conversation, since this has taken a couple of interesting turns, discussing the existences of CCGs. So, will Legend of the Five Rings CCG return? I don't know. We'll have to see what Fantasy Flight decides in the future. Will they make this their new version of the CCG? They very well could make a version of the CCG with this. The semi-CCG, where they effectively put out like clan packs and special expansion cards for general cards and things like that, you know, yes, every person could buy their own, but when you're playing with them, you'll be playing with them together. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's going to turn that way just by how many pre-releases pre-orders they're already having to making.
Yeah.
I think that's the way they're going to end up. I don't think they're going to go back to the CCG.
Which I mean, it's both unfortunate and maybe this is for the best in the current market. This might be a way that they don't have to take an old property and rebuild it and break it back into a market, which is, again, a limited market, would be said, you know?
Right.
When there's, like, 4 or 5 big CCGs I can mention off the top of my head, and after that it's like, well, what's left that's actually, like, big in people's news? What do you see people playing in places, you know? That's the thing. It's exactly what it is. Like, I don't see people playing these CCGs other than these 5 in places when I see them playing it. And Magic and Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Are the ones that are top spot, it seems.
Right.
I've seen Card Fight played at, like, anime conventions and stuff, and that's, like, the only place I've seen it, but it's enough to make me feel like it actually exists. And, oh God, I cannot remember the 5th one's name. But I've actually tried playing it one time. You know?
It's Bob.
It's when someone gave me 2 decks, and then it's like, this deck will probably not win against the one. I, like, grabbed the random one, which was the worst one, and I won with it. That's all I remember about the game. But, alright. Why don't we, though, move on to our ending segments? So, why don't we, of course, start with our first of our ending segments, Our Week in Tabletop. We'll go around the board and talk about Our Week in Tabletop. I know, Wyrm, me and you played together on Monday, so why don't you describe what happened on that one, when you and Tiv played together. Joe, did you do anything in particular, or does everything get canceled out for you until maybe doing something today or something?
The only thing I did was with you last Saturday and James.
Yes. Why don't you go over that then, at least? Because that's weird. That's tabletop.
So, yeah, for last Monday, the adventure of Kra and Wolfburn.
Yes. Did another one-shot with them, too.
And another one-shot. And, yeah, we basically...
Oh, God.
Well, we got abducted onto basically a ghost ship. We took a deal to become, like, undead, and then we robbed the guy who we took the deal from blind and escaped.
I mean, it was a turn it was a turn I built in, but I never saw you actually going that direction. I thought you would have, like, stolen stuff and left, and
the
like,
problem
escaped.
is you had 2 chaotic players.
And I gave you the option of power.
A deal.
Yes, it's like, have some power. We'll have to see if the next time those characters pop up, how things are gonna definitely.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I want some more. I want some other players too. I would love to have Ollie back with.
Or a game with Joe again, but unfortunately, it looks like whenever we throw together that game, it's on a day that Joe can't join us. One of these days, though.
Well, eventually we're gonna have some one-shot Fridays.
Yes, and maybe we can do some stuff around then. But that'll be... I was hoping to do, like, the experimental things. Like, maybe do Dragons Conquer America on one-shot Friday. That'd be really cool to do. But
yes.
No, so that ended up being a very interesting game that went a lot different than... Well, different, yet not outside of my scope of, like, thinking that could happen. Things like that, you know? It's like, I personally thought that maybe you would just be like, become members, you could have done members of those crews, and like, then I would have to say like, all the other PCs next time they show up, or whoever show up is also a member of that crew forever, you know, lesser member, rather than somehow convincing, unfortunately, like, Kraw's punch the guy in the face attitude was probably the best for, like, actually convincing of something. It was like, yeah, you respect strength, and you're just decking him in the face right away and being like, brazen. That's probably the best way to get his attention.
Yep, Kraw's abrasiveness and I guess my character's cunning kind of worked in our favor.
Somehow. Joe, what games did we play together on last Saturday?
Well, let's see. We played Dungeon.
Yes, that's true.
Which you kicked our butts at because James and I could not roll to save our lives.
Yes. You were having horrible luck at dice rolls, and James went for the big gamble, which almost paid off for him.
Yes, but he kept fighting. So in Dungeon, it's a D&D dungeon kind of a crawl game, and you're trying to get a certain amount of loot depending on the character you're playing, and then have to get back to the main entrance. James decided, I'm going to go for the level 4 when he goes up to level 6, and he was a rogue?
Rogue. And rogues are made to fight from levels 1 to 3 at most. That's the recommended levels to fight in, because each character basically has to roll equal to or above a certain number to defeat a monster. Each class has those numbers. Rogues are terrible at fighting anything above 3rd level, have very slim chances of it. Granted, even at 3rd level, they have like a 33% chance of victory for certain things, less for others, kind of thing. But
I kept going after 4th level as a fighter, which I can go up to, was it 5th?
5th, yes.
I think 5th. So I'm like, oh, okay, this shouldn't be too bad, and I just could not roll for the life of me and just kept losing everything to the monsters.
Yeah.
Where Matt just ended up like kind of beating a bunch of things, and we didn't realize, and was already on the way back to the main entrance with enough stuff.
Yeah. I basically went through level 1, went into level 2, and went everywhere that I didn't have to deal with the most annoying portions of level 2, and skimmed some level 3s here and there as I could.
Yeah, well, I also turtled for a long time trying to defeat an area, which you don't even get anything for other than access to the area that it lets you get access to.
Yeah, there's like stop gaps where you have to clear an area, and he got stuck there.
Yeah.
What game is this?
Dungeon.
Dungeon.
It's a very simple competitive game where you don't do anything to each other. Oh, hi.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's a D&D based dungeon crawl game. There's a wizard.
Cat.
Let's see, there was wizard, fighter, cleric, and thief. And depending on what you are, depends on what levels you're best to defeat monsters in, and also how much treasure you need to win. Like a fighter, I needed 20,000 gold, where Matt was playing What were you playing?
I was cleric.
He was doing a cleric, and he only needed 10,000.
What?
I see you and Joe.
Why don't you head downstairs and talk to Grammy? Yeah, she showed up with Streamcat in tow.
Yes, I know.
We also did what the heck is that game? The smallest board game I own.
Oh, Bang.
Bang, yes.
Stop playing
Which
Bang.
is an awesome Western game. And Matt did one of the most epic things with a whip.
Hey!
He
Stop
being our friend James's character out a window.
I'm doing something right now.
And I hid for the first 4 rounds. I hid behind a bar and was drinking and gaining health.
Nice.
Because they both played female characters, and I was like unnamed stranger, and I'm like, I don't want to hit women. I'm just gonna sit back behind the bar and drink. And then I just started attacking, and every attack I did was able to hit both characters with the attacks. But then James pulled it out of his butt. Yeah, that when James pulled it out of his butt.
Yes. All right. My week in gaming was, of course, playing with Wyrm, and then we didn't have Treasure of the Lost Legion. This was our week off. We didn't do anything yesterday. But on Tuesday, I had a game where I was a player, and it was my apocalyptic adventures that I occasionally do, which I am in a Pathfinder game as a... Sit down.
Why?
If you want to be here, be nice and be good, and just sit in the background.
Why in the background?
Because you're not on the stream. You're so adorable. But you're an invader. You're an invader to my show.
Invader.
You. Be careful with Mr. Webby, but you can hug Mr. Webby.
Gotcha.
All right. What was I saying? Pathfinder game. I'm a tiefling hunter that went from Fallout to Battlestar Galactica to something else weird. I've reached 19th level, mythic rank 6 or 7 now. I've killed a couple of gods with my scythe because that's what I do. And what did we do? Looped around for a while after pissing off a Cthulhuan horror. And making a deal with a deity, and then we decided to piss off something else. I can't remember. Oh, we went to a jungle world because someone said I can terraform a planet, and since we started in Galarian, which was Fallout laden wasteland, we decided, oh hey, we can get this powerful spirit of nature to go terraform that, and then 2 of the other characters are turning into trees. I made my save.
Okay.
But I don't know how to remove that, because I'm a hunter, and I only get, 6-level druid and ranger spells.
Just chop them down, they'll be fine.
I tried to use Explosion of Rot to cure them, which our GM was like, alright, make a caster level check. That's an interesting use of that spell. You rot away their flesh and hopefully the portions of them that are turning into trees. It didn't work, but it was a cool idea. I might have to try it again.
Just chop them down and make a nice table.
So that was fun. Even though we booped around for like an hour of doing nothing whatsoever, I think, for that session. You know, it's something that, unfortunately, when you get to long-term games, you can get to. I think when we have our group with Joe, a lot of times, we can oftentimes get sidetracked.
Sidetracked? I don't know what you're talking about.
Trying to figure out where you're going into the plot. But
Who needs a... Where we're going, we need no plot.
So that was this week in gaming for us, unless anybody else has any other stories. All right.
No.
Let's move on to Consult the Table. So this is the one where if you in chat have any kind of questions for us about your tabletop games, tabletop experiences, you can share it with us now. I don't know if we have anybody here today that will want to share a question with us, but if you do, go ahead and leave it in chat, and we will answer it to the best of our abilities. Anything tabletop related. Invading is fun. Oh, God. My niece is entertaining people in the crowd. Great.
She's always entertaining.
I know. And the cat's on the bed now, so...
Tell her I said rawr.
Joe says, rawr. Don't throw Mini Mr. Webby. Mini Mr. Webby is adorable.
He's weird, silly.
Mini Mr. Webby.
Adorable. He's weird.
She's
Big
weird.
Mr. Webby.
Now she's hugging the giant purple spider, so that's okay. I can accept this.
Big Mr. Webby.
Don't destroy anything. So if anybody in chat has any kind of questions for us to ask, let us know, and we'll answer it to the best of our abilities. Otherwise, we'll, take questions for next week. If you have, there we go. Are we back? We're live again. Sorry about that. My niece hit the wireless connector.
Oh.
So
I would do it.
it killed everything. Let's see if the actual
I
stream
explained in
is
the
back.
chat. I said, sorry, technical issues. Right now it's a commercial on my end.
I'm frozen here. Let me...
Yes,
that's
I
all
can't
you
see.
see.
I can hear you, but I cannot see you at the moment. Yay! There's video.
Yes.
Hey.
Well, sort of. It's still freezing up on my end.
Stream is back.
Oh, the stream is back, but I'm frozen up.
Yes.
And I don't know
You're
why I'm frozen up.
and stream is back.
At least the stream is back. I mean, that's an advantage. I'm frozen. Let me try turning my video on and off. Everybody, look
You
out
can
for
hear
that.
you on stream.
Every time I
You
go
go
back,
first. Yeah, you go for a second and then freeze.
Look, I'll
Well-
just be frozen in this position of, like, waving hi.
Hi!
That works, though, fine.
Hi/bye.
Wait,
Hi
no,
slash
we're
bye.
doing high fives.
High fives! Anyway, anyone, questions, table, right now. No? Yes? If you do, please answer them. If not, leave them either, get them ready for next time, leave them in the description of the video when I put this out on
Feel free to tweet me with them.
Tweet Joe with them, which, let me just,
Granny needs me. Gotta go.
yes, I'm not getting it right. I've lost my mind.
I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember my own Twitter because I barely ever use it.
No, I had it on, is Nightbot not working now? Because it should be. I think I have to reset my own chat is the problem. Because the chat
Here, I'll just type
died. So much stuff died with the stream, niece. Now I should be reconnected. There we go. Yeah, okay. Now I'm reconnected and it works right.
Yay!
Sorry. Yay! I fixed it, sort of. I'm still dead on the stream. And I don't know
Yes,
how
you're
to
still
fix it.
giving a high five.
High five! Anyway, so
Three
yeah,
high fives.
tweet it to Joe. Leave it when you have it down here. When you have it prepared, leave it in the description of both this video, or like you can send it to me during things like Gathering the Roll when I do that live stream next Tuesday, or when I put that show out. You can leave it in that description there. Just let me know it's a question for us to answer on Discussing Tabletop, and we will of course answer to the best of our here, consulting the table. We'll try
Since
to
we
do our
don't
best.
have a... Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, since we don't have a question, I did want to do a little channel promoting for you, though, of something. Since PAX Unplugged is coming up next month, they have released their schedule. They do have an app on Android and on Apple. It's a PAX Unplugged app that has the full schedule. If there's anything on there that you would like us to specifically look at while we're at the convention and report on, feel free to look through the app and tweet us on it and let us know what you would like to see us report on.
Yes, that's true. That'd be a very good one. Me and Joe will try to make videos, information about them, put together something. I probably will have it after PAX Unplugged rather having to try it during it, because that seemed like a terrible idea when I did that. I will probably just skip gathering the roll after the convention and take the time I would have been working on that and put this together. And I will announce now, I will probably have no videos during that time period, save for live stream videos, that I've already been streamed out. Instead of trying to keep up with stuff. Because I learned from PAX South, if I try to keep up with my scripted content, I have to work ahead of time. It's too much work. It burns me out a little bit. Does not work.
Also, James will be there too with us, so we can see if any interesting things he works on, and maybe he wants to add his words.
Any of you that are going to be there, tweet us and let us know. Also, we'll meet with you. We'll do some cool stuff with you. We're always willing to do that.
We're always willing to make new friends.
I am planning to organize a few things there for groups with me, and I will announce it on Twitter for those of you that are interested. But why don't we move on though to ending the stream, promoting other people. Wyrm, why don't you promote yourself, of course?
Yes, I am Diamond Wyrm, twitch.tv/Diamond Wyrm, and Twitter @Diamond Wyrm. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays. That means tonight I'll be streaming. And I also my YouTube's a mess right now. I need to start uploading some stuff, but I am planning on making a YouTube exclusive series soon. I'm still working that out, so if you want to go over there, you can check it out. Or if you want to sub on YouTube now, you can do that in preparation. But
yes,
anyway, I'll announce when stuff actually starts happening over there, though.
Cool. Joe.
My usual thing is promoting you.
Yep.
I kind of just did a little bit of promotion, so I'll let you take the reins for our normal activities.
Okay, so tomorrow we are off from Treasure Lost Legion. We're moving to our every other week schedule for that. There will be a second game, which I will be organizing probably within the next month. Hopefully I can get that started. That will be in the same week as Treasure Lost Legion. So I'll have that, then I'll have Treasure. It'll be every other week for both of them. Same with that Friday show that I'm organizing. These are the two new shows that are going to be coming out soon. If it's a week that does not have Treasure, we'll have the other show, basically, on Fridays. Those will be announced when I can get them together and get all the players I want for them. So, those are the big things there. I will be back, though, tomorrow evening for maybe some Tabletop Simulator, maybe some multiplayer games. I'll see what people want to do. Normal schedule for the week, we'll see about the, next one-shot when we do it, when we get people and stuff, maybe. I'll do that soon, hopefully. Let's see here. What else is important? Normal schedule on the YouTube channel. I'm pretty well caught up with that. Everything should be coming out there. This will be out on Tuesday of next week if you haven't caught all of it and you want to see the rest of the show. I do have an updated Patreon, if you want to check that out with some cheap stuff. Even if you want to do $1, I give thanks for $1. Some cheap stuff if you want, your name at the back of the videos and stuff, for that stuff there. I'm still working on the Discord, organizing it the way I want it to. I don't know if I have the link below there, but I should put that in there soon. If not so, my own Discord. I'm going to try to, put that together for people. Big other thing. I am an affiliate. I do have an emote now. I've been using it throughout the show occasionally, throwing it into chat if you haven't seen it. If you are interested in subscribing, go ahead. You know, that's another way of showing support here if you wanted to. You know, these are big ways to show support for me. You know, whatever is good for you. Even watching some videos on YouTube is a way of showing some support for me. You know, going and seeing the first part of this show helps a lot. You don't even have to subscribe to do that. Just watching it is a good thing, you know, too. So any way that you want to show support for here to continue developing stuff, continue having cool information, please do. And of course, please support these guys when they do something. If Joe would do something on his own, please support him. Always go and check out Wyrm stuff. He does some great stuff himself too, you know. So thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoy the fact that I'm waving to you already, and I've been doing so for the past, like, 20 minutes. Because my camera died for whatever reason, and hopefully that'll be fixed up post-show. I'll figure that out, maybe. Probably was something that happened when Stream Knees bumped into everything, because tornado. Anyway, we'll hopefully see you all here next week, of course, and see you during the week for various other things, but, you know, hope you had a great day, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.